My name's Jackson Kilgore.
I'm Jacob Kane.
And this is the Next Up Leaders podcast.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do within the cities? I can. So I'm Renee Sides. I have 4 kids and 7 grandkids, and married to Lauren Sides, who is a bus driver for the city, or for the city schools. And I am the Director of Economic Development for the City of Cordova. I'm also the Executive Director of the Cordova Economic and Industrial Development Authority. Okay.
Sounds like a Swiss Army knife.
It is a Swiss Army knife, yes.
So, can you give us a little overview of CEDA's mission and the impact on the local economy?
So economic development is not what I term smokestack chasing. It is, for years, a lot of people thought that economic development was, we just had to have another manufacturer for jobs. But economic development is actually anything in the community that will promote growth or improvement. So that could be quality of life issues, hiking trails, biking trails, parks, libraries, art. It can be housing. Variety of housing, whether it be single-family home, multi-unit homes, condos, apartments, and it can also be job growth and workforce development.
So what industries are currently thriving in Cordova, and where do you see the most potential for growth?
Well, one of the things that when you ask that question, one of the things that you have to look at, there's a lot of different factors. So economic development is great. Industrial growth is great. However, you have to look at the topography of the landmass in Cordova. And that's unfortunately what a lot of people didn't look at in the past. And in the city limits of Cordova, 85% of our property has more than a 15% slope, which when a developer looks at that, they're going to check it off the list. And the reason being is because the cost of land development is so high, they're going to go somewhere else that's got a little bit more flat land. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple of industries, of course, healthcare with our nursing home facility. We have G&G Steel, which is right outside the city limits, but we still consider it one of our employers. And then we have the grocery store and some retail locations. Cordova is not really positioned as far as topography to be able to attract large manufacturers. Regular standard industrial sites will want anywhere from 50 to 100 acres. Large mega sites are 1,500 acres. We just don't have that available land mass. So one of the things that we did about 6 years ago was we started going through a process of what are Cordova's assets, what are our liabilities, and what do we have to offer? How can we set ourselves apart? So we started during that process of rebranding Cordova as an outdoor recreation community, basically a support community for other communities around us. So we can have housing and retail and quality of life that surpasses everyone around us, and people will want to live here.
Going back to the thing you said about more than 85% of the city's land has more than 15% slope. Mm-hmm. So that makes this land unavailable to use for projects that...
Not necessarily. So it depends on what kind of project you're talking about.
Like when companies come in?
Yes, pretty much. So because of the cost of land development.
So do y'all have a plan for fixing that yourself, or having workers of your city do that so that it helps and they can come in and build?
They will never be able to fix that. And let me tell you why. So if you look at the back of the school property,
you have
a cliff. Most of the land in Cordova has a cliff.
Okay.
To some degree. So one of the things that I do is I study maps. So if you look at topographical maps, where you'll see lines, particularly in Cordova, you'll see lines all the way around the maps. And most of the time they don't follow straight lines, they're curved, and then you'll see numbers on those maps, and it'll go 400, 425, 350. That's the elevation. So if you see those massive drops from like 400 to 200, well, that's a 200-foot drop. That's insurmountable. In addition to that, most of it's rock. So it's not like you can just scrape off a layer of topsoil. So that's why we had to think outside the box, because even though those slopes, that 15% slope, and that's on average, even though we've got that 15% slope, one of the things that those slopes do attract are hikers and bikers, because they like it changes in elevation. So, even if you look at our football field, it sits in a bowl. Look at the city proper, the downtown area, it sits in a bowl because you've got Reservoir Hill, you've got Nations Hill, you've got all of these hills around it. So we have to think outside the box, and how are we going to grow this city without having that perfectly flat land?
So are there any upcoming projects or entities that CDOT is particularly excited about?
There's actually quite a bit of quite a few projects that we're very excited about. We have multiple housing developments that we're working on, which is very exciting, because that's one of the things that we need so desperately to be able to keep and attract students who are graduating from high school, because one of the things that we constantly hear is, well, there's no place to live. And that's true to a degree. There are places to live, but very few young adults want to live in a 100-year-old house, because they want to spend their time on the weekends playing and having fun. They don't want to have to do a lot of maintenance. Me, I'm old. I love the character of an old house. But we have to have, but I'm not the future. Y'all are. So we have to have a lot of variety. So we are working on a 150 home development. We're also working on some infill development. So we're going into phase 2 of our community development block grant, and that is a grant that we received through ADECA to be able to demolish vacant, dilapidated housing. Now, these are houses that are not being lived in currently, and they're beyond repair. So we're able to get those properties cleared up. We're able to get them leveled and get the utilities capped and get them ready for redevelopment. So we're working really hard on that infill development with some smaller developers. We also have recently purchased a parcel of land on I-22, and we're working on some commercial development out there.
Okay. So, how does CETA support small business in Cordova?
That's a great question, and that's actually one of the projects that I have on my list for this year. Every year, the mayor and the staff go through and develop goals for the current year, for the upcoming year. And that's one of the things that I had on my list, is to develop a downtown merchants association. And, a lot of people would say there's not a lot of downtown merchants. And that's true. However, one of the things that we want to do is develop the guidelines for how we can support. We want the businesses, but we also want to make sure that we are supporting the businesses that we currently have, because those are the businesses that have stayed when everybody else left. So I'm working on the framework of that now, and being able to do some advertising and some marketing for them. One of the things that I'm old, and y'all know, and I don't have the knowledge for social media and the different ways that you can use social media. So we have actually gotten recently have a young lady that's helping us navigate those different apps so that we can reach more people. The city has an app. We also have a website, and we have a social media presence on, I think they call it X now, and Instagram. We are on Facebook, and I can navigate that, but I don't know the first thing about Instagram. and TikTok. So she is working on that for us so that not only just to support small businesses and businesses that we have in town, but from a direct standpoint, but also to advertise the things that we have in town, like the pickleball, the basketball court, the parks. We're getting ready to open our first biking trail that is actually right behind the school. And so to really advertise those things, to try and get more people in, you get more people in, they're going to spend money. They're going to go to Piggly Wiggly or to a gas station or to Mojo's or to Jeff and Bond's. So.
Do you still have plans to put small businesses in the building that's still under construction operations?
Yes, we do. So that is our business incubator. It's a 10,000 square foot facility. It is not finished, as everybody knows. We basically ran out of money. We are working through several different avenues right now, whether that be the U.S. Department of Commerce or USDA, in order to try and get some additional funding for that. We have a plan B and a plan C in case those funding avenues don't work out. So it's just, unfortunately, government doesn't work as fast as private sector. And I came from the private sector, so I'm used to, things happening very quickly. So we just have to navigate those processes, which are not easy, and they're not black and white.
When you go to the government for funding, how do you go about that?
It depends on what funding avenues we're looking for. So there are some grants that are pass-through entities. So the money comes from the federal government, goes through the state to the state, and then the state divvies it out. There are some that we go directly to the Department of Transportation or to HUD. So we have a portal that I'll look at pretty much every day. It's the first thing that I do when I get in the office after I get my cup of coffee is I sit down and see what grants have dropped. And then we just start working that process. So there's this thing called a NOFO. It's a Notice of Funding Opportunity. And it basically gives you every single piece of detail, every item that you need to apply for that grant. And then we start working that process. It usually takes about 30 to 45 days to develop one application. And then you have foundational grants that are local, like Walker Area Community Foundation, Community Foundation of Greater Wilmington, Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, Kawaco. So it really depends on which avenue you're going through. The foundation grants are typically quicker. The federal applications are very extensive.
So are there any, of course there are, but what are some of the misconceptions about CETA?
I have no idea. CETA is a great organization.
Well, that's one of the things that I didn't really know what CETA was.
Okay, well let me explain what CETA is. CETA stands for Cordova Economic and Industrial Development Authority. And it is a quasi-government entity that is appointed by the mayor and city council. It is responsible for economic growth and development within the city of Cordova. So what we do is we have several funding sources. There are things that an industrial board, an economic and industrial board, can do that a city entity cannot do. So we can take, we have rents that we collect from different locations throughout the city. So we collect those rents, and then we determine what our priorities are, and then we make those priorities happen. So one of the things that CETA also does is all of the events that we have in town, CETA sponsors those. So no taxpayer funding goes to any of those events. We also, we've got our Independence Day celebration coming up in July, Indian Head Harvest Fest. We've got a cleanup day this weekend, got Take a Kid Fishing Day, an Easter event. All of those events are sponsored by CETA. We do have some other sponsors, but the bulk of everything is paid for by them. We also will take care of when we get a grant, like the raised paving grant that we got through the U.S. Department of Transportation. There's a 20% match on that. So that's a $6.4 million grant. So we have to match $1.2 million of that. So CETA will help offset some of those grant funds that are needed.
Okay. Where do you see Cordova's economy in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see it as a very booming, very growing economy that will be outdoor recreation based. One of the things, if COVID showed us anything, and regardless of whether you agree with things that happened or not, it really taught us a good lesson that there's a lot of professions that you truly can work from home. And but if you're going to work from home, you want to have a home that you can enjoy. So we really started focusing on quality of life, making Cordova a walkable community, a livable community. And, I foresee in the next 5 to 10 years, housing being developed in downtown as well as the surrounding areas. Multiple types of housing. I foresee that the downtown will be built back within the next 10 years. We have some extremely aggressive plans to be able to make that happen. And the buildings that will be built back will be multi-use, meaning that there'll be commercial retail on the bottom and residential on the second, third floors. We do have a redevelopment plan that we have finished, and we're actually presenting that on April the 15th. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that after the tornadoes, because those properties sat there for so long, they actually had to have a brownfield study done on, which was cost about $500,000 per side of the road.
Can you explain what that is?
A brownfield? Mm-hmm. So a brownfield study there's 3 phases to a brownfield study. It's a phase 1 environmental, a phase 2 environmental, and then a phase 3 cleanup. So a phase 1 environmental is where somebody sits down, basically, and somebody who understands environmental issues, and they go through deeds and property documents to see if there was ever anything located on that parcel or the surrounding parcels that could damage the environment. So if they don't find anything, then they say, okay, here's your certificate of compliance. You have no other issues. You can develop this property. If they find something, then they go to a phase 2 environmental, which that's when you start taking core samples. So an environmentalist would come out, or an engineer actually would come out and do core samples, and they would test the soil. And then they would give you a report back, and I think it's like 68 pages long, that says, okay, for phosphorus you had this, for mercury you had this. And there are levels that the EPA determines that says, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. And then if there's enough bad things from the phase 2, then they would go on to the phase 3 cleanup. So that's very expensive, because we did the phase 1 and it came back, yes, you've got to have the phase 2. So we had to have all the core samples done. So that has been done, and then part of that grant was a redevelopment plan. So they have drawn out all the streets, drawn out all the buildings, and we're going to start working that plan.
Would you like to say anything about the City Work Program?
I love that program. So, and if y'all can't tell, I'm extremely passionate about my job. I love getting up and coming to work every day. It is not really a job for me. It's a mission. And the summer work program is one of the first things that the mayor wanted to implement. So before I really came on full-time, shut my business down and came on full-time, I was just doing partial days. And but when I came on full-time, that was it. He wanted a robust summer work program. So we started working on how can we make this happen. And we're going in our 5th year. As of the end of the summer, of 24, we had 84 kids that went through that program, 84 students that went through that program. And we call it, when I'm talking to people at the state about this program, we call it a pre-workforce development program, because it really teaches kids, a lot of them that have never had a job before, how to show up every day, how to clock in, clock out, fill out a timesheet, listen, work with others. There's just so many great advantages to this program. Some of them, it teaches them how to string a weed eater because they don't know, or use a lawnmower, or clean up your tools and be ready for the next day to be able to do whatever your task is for the next day. And, we're currently accepting applications right now, and we'll be doing interviews either the end of April or 1st of May. It's an 8-week program, anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week. Pretty good pay, $10 an hour. I mean, pretty good pay for here. We do work around athletic schedules. Part of the students work in our public works, which is clearing, weed eating, cutting grass,
So
lawn care projects, building decks, building porches and ramps. Some of them work in our Summer Children's Program, which is an 8-week summer program for students in kindergarten through 7th.
Have any students who have gone to this work program, have they finished the program and come on with y'all full-time or like part-time with the city?
Actually, yes, they have. We had one, let's see, I think we've had 2 that have, but a lot of them go on to college or go on to job training.
So, what inspired you to take on the role that you have, and what do you find most rewarding about your work?
What inspired me is I fell in love with Cordova. So I'm not originally from Cordova. My husband is, but the first time that he brought me to Cordova, we were actually visiting his mother in Dovertown, and we came in and happened to be on Blue Devil Day. And we came down the hill pre-tornadoes, and I asked my husband, I said, where did all these people come from? And he said, it's Blue Devil Day. He said, they come out of the hills. And I fell in love with the people. And I love this community. And unfortunately, small and rural communities are very limited on fiscal and human resources. And my experience in international supply chain and logistics, as well as my experience as a small business owner, and my experience in construction, because I own my own construction management firm that built Centocycle power plants, I knew that the city could use my help. And this is where my kids are from. This is where some of my grandkids go to school. And I want to help in any way that I can so that my kids have a brighter future. What's most rewarding is I get to meet a lot of people. I probably know more people in Cordova than my husband, who is from here, knows in Cordova. And, the people are what makes this community so special. It truly is a family. And most people now, they assume that I grew up here because I have gone that extra mile. It's our responsibility, our individual responsibilities to be part of the community. If you don't know what's going on, it's your fault. And we have got to hold ourselves responsible for our community growth. And when events are hosted in town, whether it be a cleanup day or a festival, it's your responsibility to come out. If you don't know it's going on, then come to a city council meeting. Come to an industrial board meeting. They're all open meetings. It's only your fault if you don't know.
Amen. Any more questions?
I think I'm good with that.
What about if she could go back? Cool.
Do you want to ask us anything? They started asking my dad's thing.
How long have y'all been doing this podcast?
It's about 2 months, 3 months.
Well, Alexander is watching the podcast from Georgia, so.
Hey, we got some out of state yet?
Yep.
Hello, out of state yet?
Hello, Alexander.
He's in physics right now, so.
So, at the end of every show, we do things called the cheese quiz.
The cheese quiz. Okay. I know a lot about cheese because I love to cook.
And maybe she'll be the next number. All right. Okay. So what?
What do I win?
The title.
Oh,
You
the
get
title.
the title,
Okay.
bragging rights.
Okay.
So you get
I
to,
need Alexander here. He knows more about cheese than I
you
do.
get to name as many cheeses as you can in 30 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Okay. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Ready? Go.
Mozzarella American, Swiss, Munster, Colby Jack, Gruyere.
Oh my goodness. It's harder when you get fillings. What?
Did I say American?
It is. Names.
Provolone.
Talk about it. Dang, everybody gets 8.
8.
Everybody.
That was 7.
Everybody gets
Was that 8 or 7?
Thank you for
So 7 or 8.
Of course.
Thank you everybody for watching.
This was the Next Up Leaders podcast.
Let's end 8 minutes.